Hey everyone, Ian from Eurogamer here, and happy PSVR 2 release date and price week to you all. Start saving those pennies though, because PSVR 2 is now confirmed to launch on February the 22nd in 2023, with pre-orders starting in a couple of weeks on November the 15th. With the base bundle and no games going for an eye-wateringly steep £529.99 and the Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle coming in at £569.99, confirming at least that Horizon Call of the Mountain will be a launch title for the headset, it's gonna be an expensive time for VR fans. But anyway, a couple of weeks ago I put out a video that listed off the top 13 confirmed PSVR 2 games that I couldn't wait to play, which I think showed off some of the most exciting upcoming PSVR 2 titles that we'll soon be able to press up against our eyeballs. That list, however, was merely my opinion, and there were many, and I mean many, comments underneath that video that showed concern that the majority of confirmed PSVR 2 games were just shooter games. Now for me, those, along with horror games, are my favourite type of games to play in VR, but I can see why that initial list may have looked a bit disappointing to people not too keen on those genres. Fear not though, because I've got you covered with this week's episode of Ian's VR Corner as I shine a spotlight on a huge number of confirmed PSVR 2 titles that will show you just how much variety Sony's new headset will have to offer.
Welcome to Cosmonious High.
Kicking off the adventure section of this list, we've got one of the newest batch of officially announced PSVR 2 games, Cosmonious High. From the creators of the excellent Job Simulator games, you'll take on the role of a Prismy, a unique alien species that can adapt to any situation. It's silly, it's colourful, and it's a great game for easing the younger VR heads among us into the world of virtual reality.
Ready for battle. Let all monsters beware. My aim is true.
Ready those dice, friends, because the excellent but very challenging D&D board game come to life, Demeo, is heading to a PSVR 2 near you soon. We here at Eurogamer have had a lot of fun playing Demeo with the Dicebreaker crew in the past, so we can't wait for it to roll onto the PSVR 2.
You will be destroyed.
I summon fire!
One thing I do know for certain. Real change takes real courage and real sacrifice.
Jurassic World Aftermath Collection is a reworked version of Coatsink's dino-centric survival adventure game that combines both parts of the original Oculus Quest games and gives them the PSVR 2 treatment. This means that improved 4K gameplay, headset rumble, and all the other trimmings will make your trip to Isla Nublar even more immersive than it was before.
That's it! The key! Get to that train and get it moving.
I know, Mia. You're just trying to make a difference.
Based on the old point-and-click NES adventure game Shadowgate, Shadowgate VR, The Mines of Mythrok, brings dungeon crawling to life with massive caverns and mystic chambers to explore, devious puzzles to solve, and deadly elemental magic to wield. I've never played this game before, but the Oculus Quest reviews for it are very positive indeed, so I can't wait to get my D&D VRing on when this comes out on PSVR 2. Soul of Kaeru here is still in development, and with a release date on Steam that just says TBA, all we have to go on is this trailer and the blurb text, which says things like Soul of Kaeru is a Metroidvania-inspired VR game, explore a vast and colourful yet dark semi-open world filled with creatures of all sorts, from the small critter to the giant fantastical beasts, and experiment with your VR interactions through first-person cameras during puzzle moments, and control your hero in third person. Huh, sounds like maybe I should start Kaeruing about this one then. Lol. Alright, onto the horror section now, and what better game to kick this part off with than a game that utilises the tired trope of a mental asylum to base its action in. Oh, wait, no, that's not a good thing. That's actually Bobbins, isn't it? Affected the Asylum is the sequel to Affected the Manor, which was a forgettable but relatively scary haunted house simulator that sold for a budget price. Let's hope then that the Asylum is similarly priced. Survios, the developers of such excellent VR games as Creed, Raw Data and Sprint Vector, is back with an upcoming intense single-player action horror game set in the Alien universe. And apart from the fact that it is confirmed for PSVR 2, that's basically all we know about it at the moment, which is why I've just shown this picture and not a trailer, because there isn't one. Afterlife VR came out not too long ago on PSVR, and so far it's pulled in some really positive reviews on the store. So it's nice to see this deeply immersive VR horror game headed to the PSVR 2 at some point. But wait, this one is also set in a mental hospital, so chances are it'll just be a dull retread of old ground for anyone who has experienced VR horror before. Oh look, another creepy horror game set in a spooky building, although this one isn't set in a mental asylum at least. Do Not Open does still look like your standard mansion-based escape room horror game though, although this one at least promises that each game will contain different rooms and puzzle variations with solutions that change every time you play it. No idea if it's any good though yet, because it's not out on PSVR for another couple of weeks. It's time to head back to Mr. Peterson's creepy house in Hello Neighbour Search and Rescue, but this time you'll be able to burglarise it in VR. Avoid the neighbour at all costs as you, taking on the role of 6 little neighbourhood children, have to confront your fears and rescue your imprisoned pal from their basement prison. I found the flat versions of these games to be rather frustrating and I struggled to get into them, so here's hoping the extra immersion from VR will convince me to say hello to it rather than goodbye. Madison. The flat version started off so well, but it soon descended into a crappy collage of predictable jump scares, obtuse puzzles, and incredibly annoying inventory management. The pancake gameplay might not be that fun then, but you can guarantee that its scares, at least, will be absolutely brutal in VR.
The attic.
Until Dawn, Rush of Blood was easily one of the best launch titles for the original PSVR, so I was absolutely thrilled to see Sony drop this trailer for the Dark Pictures Switchback VR this week. Once again, it's a horror game crossed with a light gun shooter that's set on a roller coaster of doom, and if it's anywhere near as good as Rush of Blood, it's going to be a mainstay in your PSVR 2 headset for a long time. I had an awesome time with the Exorcist Legion on the original PSVR, so I can't wait until my PSVR 2 library possesses its sequel, the Exorcist Legion VR Sin. The Sin in the title isn't just a nod to the game's Catholicism-themed horror though. Sin also stands for safety in numbers, because this one can also be played in two-player co-op.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
Reviews of the Twilight Zone VR on the Quest store seem to be a bit of a mixed bag. Sure, this 3-story mixed reality VR game feels authentically Twilight Zone-y and scary, but many users criticised its short length, frustrating stealth gameplay, and aging VR mechanics. Maybe this one is for fans of the show only then.
Come join us in the Twilight Zone.
Wandering in Space came out this year on PC VR, but I've never played nor heard of it before, which is strange seeing as it's a sci-fi zombie shooter that has some very positive user reviews. According to Steam, it's a single-player roguelike horror FPS, so fingers crossed that means it's a bit like The Persistence, which was a single-player roguelike horror FPS game for the PSVR that I absolutely loved. Now, what would a VR platform be without some good old hacking and slashing, eh? Well, that's where our first hack and slash game, Grimlord, comes into play. This dark fantasy action RPG is due out on PSVR sometime before the end of this year, and it looks to combine realistic sword fighting with fantasy magic. Basically, it's blade and sorcery then, except for you're hitting skeletons here rather than realistic looking people, so hopefully you won't feel like an evil monster for playing it. Hellsplit Arena is an oldie but a goodie on Steam. It's been out since 2019 and the reviews for it are overwhelmingly positive. So if you're in the mood for a VR slasher set in a dark fantasy world with gruesome and realistic combat, this one will be for you. Alchemy meets hack and slash action in Mixture, according to its blog post on the Quest website, but that's not the only interesting thing about this game. Although you play it solo, you'll simultaneously control two unique characters, an alchemist and an exiled knight. Sola the Knight is a third-person character who wields a scythe, so I presume you'll control them with the thumbsticks of your motion controller, while Sephiros, the alchemist, can mix potions to throw at their enemies in first-person VR. Sounds interesting, and also maybe a bit like a violent moss? I guess we'll find out when this one releases. Samurai Slaughterhouse is a stylish-looking VR samurai stealth game that takes place in a vast physics-based sandbox, and according to its developers, it features volumetric blood effects which some may consider extreme. So that's me sold on it then. Poor old VR management sims. Only one of you is confirmed for the PSVR 2 so far, and that's the very recently announced Cities VR Enhanced Edition. Cities VR Enhanced Edition is one of the very few confirmed PSVR 2 launch titles so far, so if you're a fan of building and managing cities, you won't have to wait very long to build the city of your dreams. Looks like management isn't the only lonely genre on this list, because Zenith The Last City is the only confirmed MMO for the PSVR 2 so far. Despite being pretty sparse on content at launch, Zenith The Last City was surprisingly popular on PSVR, and this newly announced PSVR 2 edition promises to be a much bigger game than before, bringing with it hundreds of hours of new content and big graphical updates that will make it way more MMO-ish than it was before.
I was exploring the depths of every museum. And then stepping onwards into the beyond.
It's puzzle games time now, and I'm already starting with a bit of a head-scratcher because the footage we're showing of Engram here technically doesn't exist. This is actually a tech demo for a game called The Vanishing Act that Maze Theory announced a couple of years ago, but it is now called Engram. How much of the gameplay has changed since this video was released is yet to be seen, but the premise sounds interesting as it's supposedly a game that will allow players to experience memories and explore the human mind in a new way. Ooh, new, mysterious.
And that's when I realized
I could have mentored you, passed on the knowledge that was passed to me. But now I'm dead.
It feels like Firmament, a narrative puzzle adventure from the people that brought us Myst, has been in development for ages, and that's because it has, really. It originally got kickstarted back in 2019, and it's now due for release in 2023, and it's designed specifically with VR in mind. Expect beautiful art design, a mysterious storyline, and the type of inventive and original puzzles that you've come to know and expect from the developers Cyan.
You are a thread of hope for opening the gateway and preparing for the arrival. Vite dilationem effere requirit firmamentum.
I will destroy this whole mansion if I have to. Brick. Why? Brick.
Do you realize what is in front of you? Hundreds of years of suffering.
Project Louisiana The Bounds VR is supposedly a horror point-and-click puzzle game that's inspired by games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. There's not much info out about it, apart from this early teaser trailer though, and to be honest with you, it all looks a bit low-budget jank to me, so I wouldn't get too excited about this one just yet.
Well.
It's shooter time, my friends, and there's a lot of them, so maybe skip this part if shooters don't do anything for you. Anyway, After the Fall is basically Left 4 Dead in the snow with zombies, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, especially if you're able to gather a group of friends together to play as a 4-person team. There have been plenty of updates to After the Fall since I covered it on VR Corner, and it's super popular on all the other platforms, so definitely keep an eye on this one. Here's a unique idea for a VR shooter. Black Trail is a single-player FPS set during the time of the Old West, and you swap between two protagonists, a bounty hunter and a native warrior, as their stories intertwine. It's not out yet, so there's no sign on whether or not it's actually decent, but I do like the idea of firing historical weapons in VR for once. Crossfire Sierra Squad is yet another newly announced PSVR 2 game, and it's one that looks right up my street. A modern milsim with gorgeous graphics, heightened realism, and the option to play in 4-player co-op. There's no sign of a release date though, and all we have to go on really is this trailer, so there's a chance it could end up being pap. But I'm excited for this one nevertheless. In my previous Most Wanted confirmed PSVR 2 games list, I put the spotlight on lo-fi because I love its cyberpunk aesthetic, but Distortion VR here looks like it might be a worthy contender. Or at least it did until I checked the Steam reviews, which included a lot of thumbs downs and criticisms like repetitive, clunky, and just not fun. I'm sure things can change for it over time, but I think at this point I'll be holding out for lo-fi.
Remember, recruit, you're part of the Triple O now, under the wings of the mightiest fleet the galaxy has ever seen. But here, within the Twin Planet system, you're on your own.
Hubris isn't out for another month on PC, so time will tell if the hubris shown in its Steam store description is justified or not. It sounds cool though, as you can move, climb, swim and jump freely around its sci-fi world, all while fighting humans, aliens and mechanized enemies with weapons you've crafted yourself. And you can even pilot vehicles too. Fingers crossed this one does live up to the hype, as it looks and sounds pretty awesome. Hyperstacks isn't just a shooter, it's also an action, puzzle, platformer, sandbox VR game too, so it's covering a lot of genre-specific bases there. The graphics look simplistic but nice and colourful, so they should translate into a really good-looking VR experience, but we'll have to wait and see about the gameplay, as it's not out on any platform until Q1 2023 at the earliest.
Hyperstacks, coming soon.
I literally jumped for joy when I saw that Pistol Whip was coming to PSVR 2. I bloody love that game. It's amazing, and if you've not had the chance to play it yet, make sure you get it when it comes to the PSVR 2. There's so much content in there now, and the feeling of being John Wick at a rave really never gets old.
Half a league. Half a league. Half a
Now, the Light Brigade here looks very interesting indeed. It's a single-player roguelike shooter with a spooky, dreamlike visual style that manages to simultaneously look awesome and maybe a bit crap too. I'm not sure, but there's realistic gun physics in there, a load of period-authentic-looking weapons, and it's one of the only newly announced PSVR 2 games to be cross-buy on both PSVR 1 and PSVR 2, so I'm sure it'll be worth a light look at least.
Into the Valley of Death.
Volcanic Core definitely doesn't have the flashiest graphics going, but it does remind me of Tron mixed with the PSVR 1 launch title Battlezone, which I really enjoyed, so maybe it'll be good. We won't know for definite until it gets released in 2023 though, so watch this space.
We're back in business, baby! Time to ball out, let's go!
It's on to the sports genre next, aka my least favourite genre, so let's kick this off with Blacktop Hoops. A demo for Blacktop Hoops is available on the Quest's App Lab, and the reviews for this multiplayer VR basketball game are incredibly positive. So if you fancy dribbling inside your PSVR 2 headset, Blacktop Hoops with its realistic basketball mechanics should scratch the itch on your bouncing balls.
That is a pizza slice with extra vegan cheese!
I've tried a fair share of kart racing games in my day, and that's in both VR and flat, but none of those ever grabbed me as much as the classics like Mario Kart. Maybe Galaxy Kart VR here will be better though, as there seems to be a lot of variety to both the tracks and the characters. There are no reviews of it out there though, as the release date just says coming soon, but as the only kart racer announced for the PSVR 2 at the moment, you don't have a lot of choice anyway. Golf Plus is a very successful Quest golfing game that calls itself the ultimate VR golf experience. There's multiplayer, single player, practice areas, and a bunch of courses to smack your little balls around, so plenty for golf fans to get on with. I, on the other hand, find golf games a bit dull, so I won't be putting this one at the top of my wish list. Get it? Putting? 'Cause it's golf. Nice. Kayak VR Mirage is a VR game that I really want to try out, but can't due to having a dead PC at the moment. And because of the masses of very positive reviews on Steam, it's going to make waiting for a PSVR 2 now quite hard indeed. This is quite simply one of the best looking VR games available, and while the gameplay is quite sedate, the emotions and sensations that the impressive realism delivers to players here will make this an unforgettable experience. There's a lot of shooting going on in Runner, so I'm not really sure that this can be classed as a sports game as such, but there's more racing in it than shooting, so here it is in the sports section. I love the look of Runner and the immense Akira meets 80s sci-fi aesthetic vibes that the gameplay trailers give off, so I've got my hopes up that this one will live up to the hype I've built up for it in my head. Stride is a high-octane parkour adventure set in a futuristic metropolis where you need to throw yourself, stylishly, from rooftop to rooftop in order to avoid being shot in the face. If you liked Mirror's Edge and thought to yourself, that would be cool to play in VR, then this one should be for you. Oh, and there's multiplayer in it too, which is nice.
Super jam. Here we go now.
But wait, perhaps you prefer Super Kit to the Top, another VR parkour game, but this time it's the sequel to the excellent To the Top, which was previously available on PSVR 1. Visually, this sequel looks like a massive improvement on the first game, and the levels on show here seem to be jammed full of dangerous obstacles to avoid and cool structures to climb. Another sequel next, and this time it's to the excellent Ultra Wings, so I'm really looking forward to this one. The mostly positive reviews on Steam show that this follow-up isn't just a flight of fancy for the developers either, and so if the thought of an arcade-style flight sim in the vein of Pilot Wings floats your boat, or should that be flies your plane, Ultra Wings 2 should be on your PSVR 2 wishlist.
To Ultra Wings Pilot.
I've never played VR Skater before, but it's been out on Steam Early Access since April 2021, and it has very positive reviews. So if you fancy a bit of virtual Tony Hawking, you shouldn't get skate bored of this one in a hurry. Alrighty, we're on to the final genre now, and we're kicking off survival with the very popular Green Hell VR. I really bounced off this one when I covered it for VR Corner. I found it super frustrating and rather dull, but if you're into super hardcore survival games, you won't find one as rich in detail or as brutal as this.
He taught me to move on after failures. To work hard in order to succeed in life.
Would you like to hunt, survive, build, and lead in the harsh world of the Middle Ages? Well, not if it's in real life, I wouldn't. That sounds rubbish. But in VR, it sounds pretty awesome. Medieval Dynasty is already out in flat on Steam, and it's proving to be very popular. But a standalone VR version is in the works, and it's supposed to be a genre mix of Green Hell and A Township Tale. Which sounds cool, I guess.
Now, I am ready to build and grow a village. To raise my children, as they are the future, like I once was. And together with them, everything's possible.
The PSVR 2 version of No Man's Sky was pretty much inevitable, seeing as it's out on PSVR already, and I for one cannot wait to see the infinite worlds of that game brought to life through the 4K PSVR 2 headset. It's going to look gorgeous, and with the new Sense controllers, hopefully moving around and navigating all of those menus will be a lot easier than it was with the wonky Move controllers.
Welcome to Nevermont, the most calm and peaceful city. Well, at least it was one day. Now it's a total mess here.
Requisition VR is a single to 4-player co-op zombie survival sim that is currently in early access on Steam. The game has received mostly positive reviews since its release in October, with a lot of praise being put on its unique crafting mechanics. Complaints about jank and thin content seem to be a bit harsh considering it's still in early access at the moment, so here's hoping the full release on PSVR 2 will be polished and full of Zeds to Deads.
Play story mode if you want to know more about the game lore and have fun exploring Nevermont. Deathmatch is a 4-player PvP mode. Within a certain amount of time, you need to hunt for guns and gear to help you survive. Welcome to Nevermont, the most dangerous and zombiest city.
And that's that for now, my friends, unless Sony decides to announce another 11 PSVR 2 games just before I'm about to record this voiceover like it did last time, I guess. Anyway, thanks to all you for watching, and thanks by the way to our friends over at PSVR Without Parole who managed to confirm the existence of a lot of these upcoming PSVR 2 titles. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, subscribe to Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games, plus Ian's VR Corner episodes every Sunday, and why not click on some of these other PSVR 2 videos that are on screen and clickable right now. Enjoy, and goodbye.